The gospel world has recently been rocked by shocking news. Bishop Norman Hutchins, a beloved gospel hero, died at age 62. Millions were impacted by his inspirational ministry and strong voice, yet few are aware of the extraordinary challenges he faced behind the scenes. This video reveals the little-known details of his life, the reason behind his untimely passing, and the true significance of his legacy for gospel music in the modern era. You'll be shocked by what transpired next. Keep an eye out. It becomes revealing and really emotional at this point. Norman Hutchins, the bishop, was more than just a gospel singer. For more than 40 years, he was a spiritual force whose voice conveyed messages of healing, optimism, and steadfast faith. He began his career singing in church choirs and went on to become one of the most well-known voices in gospel. Millions around the world were inspired by Hutchins. However, few people ever witnessed the struggles, sacrifices, and personal struggles that went on behind the music and the limelight. We delve deeply into Bishop Norman Hutchins' life today and his untimely death at the age of 62. What actually took place? What impact did his voyage have on the church community's use of gospel music? And why does his tale still have such a strong hold on people today? We'll look at confirmed information, unique perspectives, and some obscure facts concerning his professional and personal life. This goes beyond a simple homage. It's a fascinating look at a man who made a lasting impact on gospel and left a legacy that will be remembered for years to come. Therefore, you're in the proper place if you want to know the whole tale of Bishop Norman Hutchins' passing and what it implies for the gospel world. Be sure to watch all the way through. The sections they don't often discuss are ones you won't want to miss. Let's begin by discussing Bishop Norman Hutchins' remarkable influence and ascent to renown. On September 17, 1962, Bishop Norman Hutchins was born in Camden, New Jersey, a city renowned for its hardships but also for its spiritual tenacity. Norman demonstrated an extraordinary talent for music, particularly gospel, at a very young age. He was surrounded by church life while growing up in a pious Christian home where gospel music was more than just amusement. It was a lifestyle. His adventure started in the church choir, where his strong voice immediately made an impression. His journey wasn't simple, though. He experienced the harsh reality of urban life as a child in Camden, including poverty, violence, and a lack of options. However, these difficulties only strengthened his love for service and gospel music. Early on, he realized that his voice could give hope to those who were struggling. Norman was already becoming well known in his community by the time he was a teenager. He began producing his own records, fusing modern influences with traditional gospel sounds, and was appointed music director for multiple congregations. This combination enabled him to reach a wide audience by making his songs both highly spiritual and approachable. When his album Nobody But Jesus was released in the early 1990s, it was his first significant hit. He gained national recognition as a result of the album's success. Songs that spoke to anybody looking for support and faith, such as God's Got a Plan and We're Blessed, became anthems in churches all throughout America. But music wasn't the only factor in Norman's ascent. Additionally, he had a strong commitment to mentoring young musicians and pastoral work, which helped to mold the next generation of gospel singers. He established Hutchins Ministries, where he functioned as a spiritual leader and bishop, broadening his influence beyond music to include spiritual counseling and community service. Through his travels in Africa, Europe, and the Caribbean, his impact grew globally. His message of faith and optimism spread wherever he went, inspiring and touching the hearts of many people. Norman, however, stayed rooted in his faith and committed to his mission in spite of his rising reputation. He was adored, not only as a performer, but also as a sincere spiritual leader because of his ability and humility. This is where the narrative becomes even more interesting, though. Few people were aware of the difficulties Bishop Norman Hutchins endured behind the scenes of his ascent to fame. The events that followed would put his faith to the ultimate test and ultimately mold the man who would become a gospel icon. We'll discuss his personal struggles and obstacles in the next section, which further enhance the remarkable nature of his spiritual journey. You won't believe how his ministry's compelling message was driven by the struggles he experienced. A number of intense personal hardships that tried Bishop Norman Hutchins's faith and fortitude, but eventually bolstered his ministry in ways few could have predicted, lay behind his successful career and inspirational songs. Norman was well known for his stirring speeches and strong voice, but his path was not without its challenges. He was accustomed to adversity, having grown up in Camden's rough areas. His heart, however, was bent on ministering even as a young guy. However, the path was paved with family demands, health problems, and periods of uncertainty. His ministry almost ended due to a serious health scare in his 40s, which is one of the less well-known aspects of his life. Bishop Hutchins reportedly fought a serious illness that kept him out of the spotlight for months. Along with physical suffering, he also had to deal with mental and spiritual difficulties that rocked his foundation during this period. Many questioned whether he would ever return to the pulpit or recording studio during that period, but Norman remained steadfast in his faith. His recovery served as evidence of God's tenacity and healing power. He talked openly about this difficult time in his sermons and interviews, discussing how it changed his perspective on destiny and purpose and strengthened his relationship with God. Some of his most poignant lectures and music were influenced by his experiences during these struggles. These times of vulnerability and victory were the inspiration for songs like Faith That Prevails and Still Standing. This honesty struck a deep chord with fans who heard not just the gospel singer's voice, but also the heart of a guy who had persevered through adversity and emerged stronger. Bishop Hutchins had to deal with the strains of juggling ministry and family obligations in addition to his health issues. His ability to maintain his composure was put to the strain by the demands and scrutiny that came with being a public figure. According to interviews with close associates, Norman was extremely protective of his family, working to keep them out of the spotlight while fostering a close-knit, religiously oriented home. Along with his personal struggles, he also had difficulties in the Christian community, navigating complicated variables, such as congregational expectations and financial demands, is necessary when leading a large ministry. Despite these challenges, Norman's leadership was characterized by kindness and humility, and he frequently reached out to help younger pastors who needed direction and struggling churches. Perhaps his greatest legacy was his ability to bounce back from setbacks, demonstrating that having faith is about rising each time rather than never falling. Many people are unaware of the most unexpected aspect, though. A number of today's well-known gospel musicians were also mentored by Bishop Hutchins. He made behind-the-scenes investments of time, insight, and money to develop fresh talent, guaranteeing the continued vibrancy and authenticity of gospel music. His impact as a mentor went well beyond his own records, influencing careers and lives in ways that still have an impact on the gospel community today. Remember Bishop Norman Hutchins' amazing journey as we get ready to talk about the circumstances surrounding his death, a tale of perseverance, faith, and a steadfast dedication to his vocation. The stunning and tragic details of his unexpected death at age 62, the official reports, and the responses from family, fans, and the gospel world will be covered next. You won't want to miss the revelations of his last days. When word leaked out that Bishop Norman Hutchins had died suddenly at the age of 62, the gospel community was devastated. Fans, fellow artists, and spiritual leaders all across the world were affected by his death, which sent shockwaves well beyond the boundaries of the church. What precisely transpired over those last days? Then, according to early reports, Bishop Hutchins died quietly at home, while specifics are still being kept under wraps by his family and close friends. But rumors regarding the cause soon circulated, with some pointing to natural causes and others questioning whether his prior health issues were a factor. In spite of the shock, the flood of sadness and affection was swift and overpowering. Gospel greats, pastors, and fans all paid their respects on social media, sharing their fondest memories and expressing their profound sadness at the loss of such a significant person. Fellow gospel musicians, Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams, and Marvin Sapp were among the most moving speakers, praising Bishop Hutchins for his guidance and his unwavering commitment to gospel music. His influence and popularity in the music industry were made clear by these tributes, a guide whose influence went far beyond his own recordings. Many others described the loss as the end of an era, and churches all around the nation staged special ceremonies to honor his memory. Memorial services held by his local church, Hutchins Ministries, were both somber and a celebration of his life's work. As evidence of the impact he leaves behind, videos from these events show congregations singing some of his most well-known songs while also crying. However, this is not merely a story of mourning. Important discussions concerning the challenges faced by gospel musicians, particularly those juggling ministry with the demands of celebrity and public life, have been spurred by the circumstances surrounding his death. Many are considering the potential effects of these stresses on Bishop Hutchinson's health and welfare. The need for improved support networks for gospel performers has been openly discussed by medical professionals and spiritual advisors. They emphasize that these musicians frequently struggle with loneliness, stress, and the weight of expressing faith on a worldwide scale, despite their strong voices and inspirational messages. This response draws attention to a larger problem facing the gospel community, one that Bishop Hutchins himself subtly promoted throughout his lifetime. He was well known for promoting among clergy and artists alike the value of community support, self-care, and mental health awareness. Interest in his ministry and music has also increased with the death of such a well-liked person. His most well-known songs and sermons have seen a sharp increase in listeners. According to streaming services, the depth and impact of his message are now being discovered by younger gospel listeners who may not have been aware of his early work. Curiously, a number of gospel radio stations devoted whole days to playing his songs and narrating tales from his life, guaranteeing that his impact endures while the community copes with its loss. In the midst of this widespread sadness, however, there is a significant query that many people are posing. What kind of legacy will Bishop Norman Hutchinson leave behind? How will the gospel community remember him outside of tributes and tribute songs? Without his leadership, would his ministry still flourish? We'll look at his enduring impact in the next section, including the material contributions he made to gospel music as well as the intangible motivation he gave to millions of people. We'll also examine how his ministry and family intend to continue his work in the future. Here's a cliffhanger for you though, before we continue. Some insiders claim that a little-known tale of Bishop Hutchins's last days reveals his genuine nature and outlook on the future of the church. The next episode contains a powerful revelation that you won't want to miss. Bishop Norman Hutchins was not merely a pastor or vocalist. His impact will reverberate for centuries to come as a cornerstone of gospel music and ministry. Everyone is wondering what impact he left behind as the gospel community continues to grieve his departure. And how will his vision continue to influence faith communities and gospel music? Let's start by discussing the enormous scope of his efforts. Over the course of a career that lasted over 40 years, Hutchins put out a number of albums that not only reached the top of the charts, but also had a profound impact on the lives of countless Christians. His music is accessible to both younger and older audiences because to its relevant topics and profound spirituality, which bridge the gap between conventional gospel and modern sounds. Bishop Hutchins was a revolutionary spiritual leader in addition to his musical influence. He fostered a thriving religious community through Hutchins Ministries, providing outreach initiatives, mentoring, and pastoral care to assist both domestic and foreign missions. He was adored for his heart as much as his talent because of his capacity to establish a personal connection with people, whether via singing, counseling, or preaching. It is impossible to overestimate his mentoring role. Numerous contemporary gospel celebrities attribute their professional and spiritual development to him. He made sure evangelical music would flourish long after he was gone by devoting time and insight to up-and-coming musicians. One of his most enduring contributions to the profession will probably be this mentoring legacy. However, Bishop Hutchins' impact goes much farther in supporting church well-being and mental health. In his later years, he talked more and more about the difficulties faced by gospel musicians and the value of spiritual and emotional support. He was a pioneer in this crucial field because of his candor on these subjects, which helped destigmatize discussions about spiritual groups and mental health. Regarding his ministry's future, his family and leadership group have declared their intention to carry on his work. In keeping with his goal of religion, music, and community involvement, Hutchins Ministries has committed to growing outreach initiatives and developing fresh talent in the same way that he did. In order to guarantee that his voice continues to inspire through fresh takes on his songs, they have also hinted at plans for a tribute album that will include musicians he mentored. The founding of the Bishop Norman Hutchins Foundation, a nonprofit organization devoted to promoting the mental health of gospel musicians, offering financial aid for music education, and supporting community outreach programs, is among the most encouraging developments. This foundation will continue Bishop Hutchins' dedication to compassion and creativity. His personal influence on millions of lives, however, may be the most significant aspect of his legacy, surpassing even organizations and music. His music and ministry have been credited by countless admirers for helping them get through tough times, mend broken hearts, and deepen their faith. His departure has served as a reminder to the gospel community of both the enduring power of faith and the frailty of life. It has inspired a renewed commitment on the part of musicians, pastors, and listeners to carry on Bishop Hutchins's legacy of using music and ministry to convey faith, love, and hope. To keep you interested, though, here's a cliffhanger. According to insiders, Bishop Hutchins was working on a unique project prior to his passing. If released, it has the potential to completely transform gospel music and ministry. How can the future of gospel as we know it be affected by this enigmatic project? In our last wrap-up, we will go into this intriguing subject. As this in-depth examination of Bishop Norman Hutchins' life and legacy draws to a close, it is evident that his influence went beyond the realm of gospel music. He was an inspiration to many believers worldwide, a voice of hope, and a real spiritual warrior. The tale of Bishop Hutchins, who rose from modest origins in Camden, New Jersey, to become a globally renowned gospel figure, is one of tenacity, faith, and unwavering dedication. Generations of people found solace and strength in his music, which resonated with his powerful voice that conveyed messages of hope, healing, and divine purpose. The man behind the microphone, however, was arguably even more amazing. In addition to singing, he committed his life to encouraging others as a preacher, advocate, and mentor. His guidance of up-and-coming gospel musicians guaranteed the genre's continued success. His support of mental health in the church was groundbreaking, but his untimely death at age 62 stunned the gospel community and left a profound hole that both fans and other artists felt. As a witness to the strength of a life well lived in service of faith and art, Bishop Hutchins' spirit endures via memorials, tributes, and a resurgence of interest in his music. His ministry and family have promised to continue his vision with new vigor. These initiatives, which include starting the Bishop Norman Hutchins Foundation and growing outreach programs, aim to uphold his legacy by fostering faith, assisting artists, and sharing the gospel widely. And even if his last endeavor is still a mystery, one thing is clear: the impact of Bishop Norman Hutchins endures forever. He still inspires others with his music. His advice is still relevant today, and his life still serves as a lighthouse for anyone looking for hope and faith. We'd like to hear from you now. Which Bishop Norman Hutchins song or recollection is your favorite? What effects has his music had on your life? Post your ideas and anecdotes in the comments section below. Together, let's honor this gospel legend. Please hit the notification bell to ensure you never miss an update, like this video, and subscribe for more in-depth analyses of gospel tales and popular stories. Remember to share this tribute with gospel music-loving friends and family. I appreciate you viewing, and I hope that we are all still motivated by Bishop Norman Hutchins' legacy.